Jameer is so silly and smart. He's not scared of nothing. He keeps me on my toes. Being a parent, it's a nonstop responsibility. I'm on my own, and Jameer's continuously growing and changing. I want to make sure that he's taken care of and gets where he needs to go. While I was pregnant, I didn't have a car to get to my doctor's appointments, and the shuttle services that were provided were not always clean. They did not always show up on time. That was very stressful for me not to be able to make it due to something I had no control over.
Good job. The car.
Once I received the Lyft services through CareSource, it was a big difference. Now I got this private ride. They're on time. They give me reminders. Drivers were always professional. They made sure I got there, that I didn't get left and stuck. They make you feel like family. Everything around me is still a learning experience, so having some consistency helps me to give my all to my son.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tanya Lewis Lee, and I am co-director of Aftershock, a documentary film now streaming on Hulu about the U.S. maternal mortality crisis. As a mother, I have been honored to advocate for other Black women and children for many years. And so I am so pleased to welcome you to this year's National Maternal and Infant Health Summit, where you will dive into some of the biggest issues affecting our community. A child's health is a mother's health. They are interconnected, and we cannot talk about one without the other. A child's health and a mother's health is also the center of our community and our society. So I applaud Mayor Bowser and her team for the important work they are doing in DC, not only putting a spotlight on this crisis, but for also taking meaningful steps to enact policies and direct dollars supporting families. To set the stage for the conversation you will hear today, you are about to see clips from Aftershock, which tells the story of 3 families, their birthing journeys, and 2 beautiful mothers whose lives were lost to our healthcare system and systemic racism. There is so much work to do, and if you are moved by what you see and hear today, please visit Hulu and watch our full documentary. Also visit our website, aftershockdocumentary.com, for our education guide, which has additional steps that you can take to advocate for change. Thank you for being in the room, and have a powerful and productive day.
Hello, hello. Hello.
Hello.
Good. I am Lisa Price, and I'm known to be the founder of Carol's Daughter. But today, thank you. But today, that's not why I'm here, and that's not who I am today. Today, I am a Black woman, a Black mother, a Black wife, a Black advocate, and Black maternal health is a topic that needs to be discussed every single day. And why I am here is because we have to have conferences and conversations and declare things a crisis just to get parity, because women are not considered first, though we are the majority, and Black women are not considered first, second, third, sometimes not fourth, and that has to stop. And that is why I'm here today, because I'm really sick and tired of having to address something that's a crisis just because it's not like what everybody else has. And we have to ask for what should be assumed. So pay attention, listen, absorb, get the information that you need to make your lives better, the lives of people around you better, the lives of birthing partners better, and then ultimately the lives of the children that come from those birthing partners better. The people on this panel are much more experienced and voiced in the ways to do that. And I am going to let them share that with you. So if first you could briefly introduce yourselves so that everyone knows who you are and what your area of expertise is, and then we'll get into the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Greetings, everyone. My name is Milan Spencer. I am representing Black Mamas Matter Alliance. Thank you. Black Mamas Matter Alliance, I'm the Associate Director of Workforce Development and Partnerships. We are the founders and leaders of the Black Maternal Health Rights and Justice Movement. We are an alliance of cross-sectional Black women-led organizations and individuals who advocate, shift culture, advance policy to address Black maternal health rights. And I'm so happy to be here and amongst you all. Thank you for having me.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica Foster, and first and most importantly, I'm a mom of a beautiful baby. Oh, she's not a baby anymore. She's my baby. She's 8 years old. I'm here representing Walomi, the app, which is a digital companion for that was created by a woman of color for women of color to be a companion for them while they're in their pregnancy journey and into motherhood, and now even into early childhood. So I'm here to just speak on the digital platform that we have, and I'm just so excited to be here and be able to contribute to this very important conversation.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Unique Morris Hughes, where I have the pleasure of being appointed and serving as the director of the DC Department of Employment Services, where I serve in the role as the State Labor Secretary for the District of Columbia. I'm also a proud mom of a 7-year-old girl, Ursula May, and I'm here to talk to everyone about the benefits of maternal, prenatal, and maternity leave and paternity leave. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Juan Pablo Segura. I'm one of the founders of a company called Baby Scripts, born and bred here in Washington, D.C. So started the company here and have grown it, and so proud to be a D.C.-based business. Our company, Baby Scripts, is a digital platform, but very focused on remote patient monitoring and helping providers move care out of the clinic and into the home, particularly for high-risk pregnant women. And so we now work with, I think we monitor about like 10% of the pregnancies across the country. And we've really focused on very heavy drivers of maternal morbidity and mortality, like hypertension management. So really excited to be here today and to share more.
Good morning, everyone. I know it ain't that late in the day. It has some energy. Good morning. My name is Latham Thomas. I'm also a mother of a 19-year-old son in his second year of college. Yes, and I'm the founder of Mama Glow, which is a global doula training and education platform. We focus a lot on workforce development and improving the maternal health crisis in this country by ensuring that every single person who wants access to a doula can access one. So we have programs across the country, including in New York City, where we're the largest provider of pro bono doula services to communities across New York City in 33 zip codes. And through the Mama Glow Foundation, which is committed to advancing reproductive justice and birth equity through the lenses of education, advocacy, and the arts, we partner with institutions, including universities. Carol's Daughter is one of our partners there, where we have a program called Love Delivered, which delivers doula services in 5 major U.S. cities, across the country as well. Very happy to be here.
Thank you. So I think, and if anyone has a different thought process, please share, but I think that starting off with you and the prenatal leave that you were referencing and the maternity leave is a good place to begin. And also, just a matter of housekeeping, I know that there's a clock down there that I should be paying attention to, but just FYI, I can't see it. So anybody who needs to cue me with regard to time, just know that Lisa can't see the clock. And if anyone wants to jump in, I don't want you to feel like this is, I'm going to ask a question because we're all so knowledgeable and well-versed in these topics. I just want you to share and give information, but starting with the work that you're doing, because when we were on the prep call, that just sounded like amazing to me.
I'd be happy to. So there is this incorrect narrative that, especially amongst women of color, that we don't need time off, we shouldn't take time off, to bond with our child is not as important as returning back to work. And I'm here to tell you that that is false. Don't fall for the okie doke. Don't believe the hype. All birthing people should have time to bond with their child. And so what I'm really pleased about is that the program that my agency is running, Paid Family Leave, offers 12-week for DC employed people to take time off for maternity leave and paternity leave. Now, the reason why this is important is because 4 weeks, 6 weeks clearly is just not enough time as birthing people to heal our body and to bond with our child. The program that I was fortunate to start up was created, led, developed by an amazing group of people, most of them people of color, most of them women. People doubted us. They thought that we would never be able to stand up a program, especially this little, well, we're not little, but this big agency across the river. And we've been able to do that, collecting more than $400 million each year in tax revenue to provide benefits to people, to those that are employed in the District of Columbia. So maternity leave and paternity leave is important. But we should throw away this idea that we should not take the time to heal ourselves, heal our body, and most importantly, bond with our child.
Thank you. Latham, I would love if you could explain to the audience, for those who don't know, the work that you do with doulas and how doulas play a role in prenatal and postnatal care.
Yeah, thank you for that. I just want to also echo the importance of parental leave. You know, beyond the beauty of the bonding, it is critical and foundational for our families, for our children to learn that the world is a safe place, and they learn that through connection. And so that time that they have to spend, and this is stuff that we teach in our doula training and help families to reclaim, because so much of our work has been taking care of other people's children and not our own, we have to fall back into an understanding and this culture of paid parental leave, this culture of being able to be at home allows us to actually vision what's possible not only once we have our children, but before. Because think about mapping your perinatal journey, and if you only get 6 days, 10 days, maybe 14 tops before you have to go back to work, how are you thinking about what parenting looks like, right? And so part of the work that doulas will do is help people to establish that vision. And so doulas are non-clinical care providers that provide emotional support, physical support, education, advocacy tools, because that's critically important to be able to advocate along the birth journey. And then also partner support. If you have a partner present, that person gets to learn along the journey and participate at their level of comfort as well. And this is not a new concept, although it's more popular now. People are talking about it more, but this is village keeping. We always have people in the home, right, looking after us. And sometimes it was an aunt or an elder, right, or a cousin or someone who was like maybe your elder in the process. Maybe they had twins, you're about to have twins. You would hang out with that person. But doulas have been embedded alongside midwifery, which was also something embedded in our culture. Doulas show up inside the gaps that we have that are systemic, the policy gaps that we have that should be addressed, Doulas take way too much of a burden, and we need to figure out a way also through doula benefits, through insurance, to cover the services that they provide because they're under-supported financially as well. And this goes hand in hand with parental leave because think about how many of you live close to your family members? Like a handful, right? Most of us live away from our villages. And so when doulas support us, these are people who are supporting us along the birthing continuum, but into the postpartum period, these are people who kind of step into that space where a family member would, where a mother or grandmother would come in, or an aunt or something like that, right? And so you have people who are providing a tremendous service of support to people who are really vulnerable in a time where they also need clinical care, and you don't see your doctor until 6 weeks after having a baby. A lot happens in 6 weeks, right? And so having that time to actually be home, to rest your body, to be in community with people and your support network, to eat warm and nourishing foods, to rest, to feed your baby, to learn your baby's cues and be connected right before you go back into the workforce is critical also for our sense of personal development and self-determination, as well as our foundational family journey. And so doulas help us to find what that looks like for us. You know, in the postpartum period and in the prenatal period, doulas are helping us vision really what we want our birth experience to be like, right? Not focused on the outcome so much as the entire experience, because we can't control the outcome always, but we can think about how do I want to have this birth, right? Where do I want to be and with whom? What does my care team look like? What is my birth village, right? Who are those people who will stand in the gaps that we have here and help me to have the experience that I desire?
I would actually like to piggyback off Latham. And so you said something, so for an example, Walomi is a Yoruba word meaning happy hands. And so when my daughter was born, her dad is Nigerian. And so that community, that support, I had his mom, aunts, people coming. I didn't have to worry about cooking for like 2 months. They were there helping me take a bath, giving the baby a bath. And that's what we're all about, is that support. And that's why we have a doula on our team, because they're able to be hands-on with the mom and include everyone in that support. Because honestly, I don't know how many moms do we have in the room, right? And so we don't have to do this thing alone. There's enough of us in here to be able to support each other, to help us embrace our journey. For me, being from a small town, coming to a large city, I had nobody here. It was just my husband and I at the time. And so being able to have a doula or a midwife would have, I mean, this was 8 years ago, but it was a dream, like, right? I needed that support, so that's why I'm so passionate about what we're doing here. Yeah.
I just want to add to that, and then I'm going to turn it over to Juan Pablo. I think I called you Juan Carlos earlier.
More exotic, Juan Carlos.
I had my first child 26 years ago, and I had a doula because she was my friend, and she was learning to become a doula. She was a lactation consultant, and she was studying to become a doula. But 26 years ago, no one knew what doulas were. Right. And if it had not been for her and her support in the birth of my first son, and then having someone come to my apartment to help me nurse him, because we didn't get to bond the same way in the hospital, because this one has a fever, we don't want to do this, oh, we gave him a bottle because you were sleeping, etc. So he took more time to latch on. And had I not had a doula, I know for certain I would have given up. Yeah. And she helped me not give up. I nursed him. His sibling was born 19 months later. I nursed them both, and they nursed until 3 years, 9 months, 4 years, 3 months, respectively, oldest and youngest. And what you were saying about your confidence and your mental health and moving into your world, do you know how many times the fact that I did that is what got me through a day, because I could remind myself what a badass I am. Because these two big things in my house, I fed them for all those years. Every time they went to the doctor and gained a pound, I was like, I did that. That's me right there. That's not oatmeal, that's me. So it's a very, very important thing, and I'm so blessed and so happy that I had that for myself, and I want everyone to have it. But I would love you to talk about the support that you provide medically, but at home, because that's such a difference when we don't have to walk into the office, because when you walk into the office, a lot of times there's shame and guilt instead of love and grace.
No, and I think it's important. So, I think one of the most harmful state of minds that any of us can kind of get into as a society is to just keep saying, when we look at a problem or a challenge, and just keep saying, well, it's always been that way. And I think, and the leadership in the district is amazing, because I think paid family leave is an example of how we just assumed that, women just go back to work after going through one of the most life-changing moments ever, right? And instead of, just throwing them back into the workforce and expecting someone to just show up and be perfectly fine and everything just like it was before, we made a societal investment here in the district to be able to give women and birthing people the ability to actually focus on themselves. And that takes the village that you're talking about. And so I think the dynamic with technology and even the delivery of prenatal and postpartum care is the exact same thing. So we see that we keep having bad outcomes year after year after year, and they're multi-causal. It's not just one factor, but I think the structure of prenatal and postpartum care is part of the problem. We don't have enough doctors, midwives. You look at England, a fourth of the population, they have 5 times as many midwives as we do in the United States, just sheer numbers. So you just look at the workforce, we just don't have enough people to deliver the care that we need to every maternal patient out there. And so, our big focus has been to really work with providers and patients to basically use technology, remote patient monitoring, blood pressure cuffs, weight scales, smartphone app experiences, to make care more focused on the patient's life flow and their own lives, instead of always having a patient to come in 14 times throughout the pregnancy and however many times postpartum to get the care that they need, right? And I think that's important when you also start asking people to go to the doctor's office instead of putting food on the table, because a lot of our moms are working hourly wages. And so you're basically saying, no, don't make money, instead get care. I think that's a false dichotomy. And we can't have that be the status quo. That can't be how we've always done it. And I think technology is really an important linchpin in how we think about these societal investments as well.
And can I add, it's been presented, to your point, either or. Go to work or go to the doctor. No, it's both. And make no apologies about it. It's yes and it's both. I'm gonna work and I have to go to the doctor so I can care for myself. And I could show up and be here and be highly effective. But it's the innovation of technology, and I do think it's a linchpin. It's the innovation of changing culturally. It's a paradigm shift of approaching these problems in a new way. And it's also normalizing not just self-care, but joy and peace. Like, it's okay to find joy in maternity and paternity leave. And so you're bonding with your child, not just because the child needs it, but because you may actually enjoy the time you have with your child. And so when we begin to shift the paradigm collectively, and I think all of us up here are doing this in our own unique ways, we will see a change in outcomes.
I just wanted to make a couple of points. So, paid family leave, having a doula, Baby Scripts app, Below Me, Mama Glow. These are all things that are collectively tying the village together. And once we start to really look at what the barriers are with Black and birthing individuals and start breaking down those barriers, that's when we're moving towards true reproductive and birth justice. So, for example, with paid family leave, we always hear this conversation how Black women and individuals don't breastfeed. And that's one of the barriers. We're almost taken out of the game at 2 weeks, 4 weeks, because we have to go back to work. So the environment does not support us to be able to breast and chest feed our babies for as long as we need to. When we have a doula that's there that can, in the middle of the night, between delivering and those 6 weeks when you see your doctor, you can call them and say, hey, I'm really struggling with this. Can you give me a resource? Like, these are all ways that we're gonna start connecting the dots to advance Black maternal health rights and justice. And it's a collective understanding of what the barriers are, and then starting to really break those barriers down so that we can, what I like to say, move and walk in our purpose, because we were the originators of breastfeeding. We breastfed our own and master's babies. And there was a point in time in our history where we had to turn away from that because the environment did not rise up to support us being able to care for our children in that way. And so I feel like with paid family leave, having a doula, we've always been doulas in our community. It's just now a new buzzword, and you can be certified for it. I'm a childbirth doula. Also understand there's postpartum doulas, there's abortion doulas. These advocates, these care people and these advocates are there at the full spectrum of reproductive and maternal, the lifespan. So just understand that it's not just about the perinatal period. It's about what happens before. It's about what happens after. It's about the decisions that we all struggle with as parents to make for ourselves and our families. And reproductive justice, by definition, is the human right to have children. So you have body autonomy. You have the birth that you want. To not have children, access to birth control, access to abortion services, and to parent those children in safe and sustainable communities, free from violence from one another and free from violence from the state. And that's what we're trying to march towards. And if you can apply that framework to anything you do, personally and professionally, we're going in the right direction.
Thank you, Milan. Thank you. I'll open up this question to any and everyone that wants to comment. What, based on the work that you are doing and what you see that needs to change, what is the thing that, simultaneously keeps you up at night and pulls you out of the bed in the morning? We'll start with Juan Pablo.
That's whoa, I was hoping to get some direction from everybody else before asking that question.
Sorry.
Well, if I said that I didn't sleep, then I wouldn't have to answer the question because I just don't get up, right? So, so I think one of the challenges as an entrepreneur, especially in technology, is like there's huge expectations to solve all of these problems all at once, right? All the time. It's like, okay, Black maternal mortality, let's go. And it's like, technology is not going to be the only thing, right? I mean, talk about the inequities that people face every day. And so I would say that the thing that has given me a lot of solace and also has helped us be successful as a business, because if my business isn't successful, I can't make an impact, is trying to break down these huge problems into really small chunks and pieces. So for example, a lot of people don't know this. Most women die, the maternal patients die not during the pregnancy, but postpartum, right? So a lot of people don't know that. And then let's look at what's driving a majority of that maternal death. Postpartum hypertension. When you start kind of looking at these little things, okay, well, what does that mean, postpartum hypertension? Well, the first 16 days after discharge, you are most at risk for both a readmission and a mortality or morbidity event. So what if I can just monitor blood pressure for 16 days? That seems to me a lot more doable than fixing structural racism. I'm just one person, and I think that to me is it gives me a lot of courage to say, all right, I'm just going to focus on one thing. And that, to tell you the truth, our business, the most successful thing that we've done is focus on reducing postpartum hypertension readmission and complication. So, that's my approach, and that lets me go to sleep, I guess, to then be able to wake up refreshed to go after and tackle these problems. So yeah, that's how I would answer that.
Anyone else?
I'll answer that because I do this because it's my passion, right? So, as I mentioned before, I'm from a small town, Eden, North Carolina, and I moved to this big city, DC, right when I got pregnant, and I did not have any support. And so, actually, last week we were in a feeding lounge on the app, and there was about 8 or 9 moms all breastfeeding at the same time. We were so comfortable, and I'll even share this. Like at one point, one lady had her breast just like laying in the camera because we were that comfortable. And to have that support and be able to embrace your pregnancy and to be able to ask questions, sometimes it's that lived experience. Sometimes my grandmother used to tell me, if you live long enough, you're gonna go through some things, right? And so now I'm living and I'm beginning to see that my journey does not look like a lot of the moms that I coach and a lot of the moms that I work with, but we all have our journey. And so each morning I get up and I say, I don't know everybody's spiritual beliefs, but I say, God, please just show me who I can help today. Lead me to somebody who needs my service. And then I'll get on the phone with the mom. And she's like, I'm like, are you okay? How are you today? And she breaks down because she's like, nobody has asked me. Everybody's just worried about the baby. They forget about me. And I'm there and I'm able to be a listening ear, a sounding board for her. And then to also be able to send her to a therapist or to a doula or to a midwife, someone who can help her embody and embrace and enjoy her journey. So why do I get up? Because my why is because I wish I had this for me. And when I do have my next child, I know I have a community that'll be there to back me. And I feel like whatever you put out, you get back. And even having a pregnancy circle that's led by a certified therapist to be able to help you with those questions you don't know how to answer, those feelings. On the panel before, she mentioned mommy blues. Mommy blues are real. And sometimes you don't know what that looks like until you're going through it yourself or you see a close person, family member or friend doing it. And so just being able to be that support for someone else is why I do what I do, why we do this.
Thank you. I'd like to answer that. It's twofold for me, like what keeps me up at night and what wakes me up in the morning, especially for the Black community and who I consider to be my village. I know for a fact that we have the tools already in our possession to fix most, if not all of these problems and liberate ourselves. We can't wait for politicians. We can't wait for the system to no longer be infused with racism. We have it already. The issue is us recognizing and how to operationalize that. And then for me, it's like knowing that we have this knowledge and these tools. I want to bottle up everyone's grandma, auntie, that have herbs that heal, that have healing hands. These things that are intrinsically embodied in our culture, that because it's not in a peer-reviewed journal, it's not respected, and we can't operationalize it in our healthcare. These are the things that keep me up at night and wake me up in the morning, because I'm like, we're going to get there. We are going to be, especially with Black Mamas Matter Alliance, we are going to be a driving force to start to build, strengthen, fortify, and train Black maternal health professionals to start doing this work. And that training is not going to always be in the form of what's peer-reviewed and what is considered acceptable by mainstream medical society. And that's one of the things that wakes me up, and we got to keep going. But we have it, y'all. We have everything we need for our own liberation. We really do.
And we have to advocate for ourselves.
Go ahead. So one of the things that keeps me up at night, and there's a lot that keeps me up at night, is that the number of people that are utilizing paid family leave for maternity leave and paternity leave in populations of communities of color is much lower than non-communities of color. And yesterday I was looking at data of what the percentage of African American women and men that are utilizing paid family leave, specifically for maternity and paternity leave. I think equally important, we have got to target and focus both men and women We don't really talk a whole lot about how men can utilize paid family leave for paternity leave to support their partners. There's this strange, and we talked a little bit about this pre-panel, there's this really unfortunate, maddening, strange relationship that people of color, especially the African American community, has with work and labor. And you don't have to be a scientist to understand that the dynamic and the relationship of work and labor for people of color in this country doesn't start off very well. And so that, I think, continues to show up and how and why people take time and provide for themselves. And so one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about is how do I target people and explain, especially to Black and Latinx men, that it's okay to take time off to support their birthing partners. Yes. We don't talk about that often, but we all deserve to have a support system. And in some villages and communities, based on your own personal beliefs and relationships, there is a role, depending on, again, on your dynamic, for men as your other birthing partner to play. And so I've got to figure out a way how we target and get Black and Latinx men to take leave, because they are the lowest right now of all people in DC that are utilizing this leave. And then I need more Black and Latinx women to also be taking maternity leave. Again, they're lower in the data. So that keeps me up, but it also wakes me up in the morning.
Thank you for all of these. It's so interesting to hear from each of you. I wanted to say something that came from what Milan was sharing around the knowledge keeping, and how a lot of what's really important, like a lot of things that count can't be counted. There's not metric for it. And because of the nature of the work that many of us do in our communities, a lot of us have been locked out of this work generationally. And so, and the way that we were forced to actually pass down knowledge was orally and through song and through movement and through prayer, and it was not in books. And so you don't get to see, when people ask for citation, you can't cite your ancestors and the knowledge, it's in your bones. And so I think it's so important for us to think about this dynamic of credentialing and then criminalization, and how those are tied together, and that so much of what keeps us out of spaces that are clinical or out of spaces where we could be able to help our communities more is because those spaces are siloed, and there's layers of credentialing to get there. And then people who are doing incredible work in community, folks who are traditional midwives, folks who are aunties that are doulas, can't come into the birthing room because they don't have credentials. Right? And so then they're criminalized, right? Or because you can't practice midwifery in your state because of licensure, right? Or open a birth center so that your people can come and deliver safely. And we talked earlier about the fact that there's more midwives. If you think about the midwifery to obstetrician ratio globally, everywhere else in the quote unquote developed world, we have higher midwife to obstetrician ratio. In the United States, we have a higher obstetrician to midwifery ratio and the poorest maternal health outcomes. And so it is important to understand that midwifery was embedded in our structural system of birth giving, of caregiving, and that knowledge was brought over by African peoples who delivered all of the babies. Right? And we were locked out of that when this work was put inside of institutions, and then we were criminalized for practicing work outside of those institutions. And so many of us may have ancestors far, or maybe even not distant, who are practicing this work, and that we learn about. Sometimes we find our way coming back to it through doula practice, or coming back to it through public health, or coming back to it maybe becoming a doctor. But it is our work. And it is critical because we need to see people who look like ourselves inside of this work. And so what keeps me up at night is that. But what also keeps me up at night is the fact that we don't appreciate the caregivers, the people who actually do this work. We don't pay them properly. We don't find ways to pay them. Instead, we put the burden onto the patient, or not even the state wants to pay for it. Nobody wants to pay for doulas, right? And so now we're figuring out all these programs that don't even reimburse properly at a thriving wage, not a living wage, but an actual wage that people can live comfortably and do their work. We need to figure this out, and it should be a priority because we care about the care providers. And what's happening is that because this is work of the home, because it's work that was largely done or practiced by people of color, we don't want to pay for it. Right, so we have to rethink about this, the value, what we see in terms of care and work of the home, and how we value work of the home. Because already with paid leave, we don't value work of the home, which is why we don't pay people to stay home with their kids, which is why we have to fight for that. And so if we start to think about like how other areas of care, this also impacts the people who provide the services. And a lot of these people are getting evicted, right? A lot of these people suffered through COVID, are housing or food insecure, but are showing up in these gaps to provide excellent care for families, right? And so I think about how we can design and think and live into a future that's different, where we actually care for our caregivers, where we support and provide opportunities and safe space, but also where we think about the folks who are the wisdom keepers. Milan was talking about our elders, right? It's a lot of aunties and mamas and grandmamas and folks who are home, who have knowledge, and we lock them out of the birthing room. Yep. Those people need to be inside the spaces with us and into the homes and cooking for us and helping us recover and helping us to find our way to a parenting pathway that is tied to our ancestry, to anchor us. And so I think it's really important for us to look to, like you were saying, what's already here. And also understand that we're not going to find all of this knowledge inside of institutions. It's inside of us, and we need to reclaim it, and we need to ground ourselves in all of our magic and realize that every single one of you here in this room has something that you can offer someone else. Something that you can offer of service, that we are all healers. We are all really doulas, right? Yeah. And so I just hope that, you know, when in our work that we continue to make space to fight for doula access, but also for doulas themselves, to make sure that they can continue to do this work without being burnt out. And that's what really keeps me up at night.
Thank you. Thank you. I love what everyone had to say. That was so great. There's 5 minutes left. I am not certain whether or not we're supposed to take questions from the audience. Can anyone let me know that quickly? Okay. Okay, I can make an executive decision. I think in 5 minutes we can have one question from the audience. So please, someone take advantage of the opportunity and pose a question. Yes, I see a hand up. Yes?
Please go to the mic.
There's a microphone there so we can hear you. Thank you.
So one thing that, it's actually a question I wanted to ask for the last panel, and I want to get your opinion on it. A lot of, at least my clients, my name is Sabrina Trueblood. I'm a certified lactation counselor with the Aladoon Tree. And a lot of client pain points are, they're scared to tell their providers if they're having the baby blues, right? Because they don't know if they're going to get the medicine that they need, and then if they do get the medicine, a lot of providers just say, stop breastfeeding. It's like just a liability to be like, we don't really know how it's going to impact it, so just stop doing it. And that's a really big pain point that we don't really know how to navigate around.
Wow.
I'll start. So first, tell your clients to download the Walomi app, right? First, because that's what we do, right? So we are able to help them navigate those questions and what weeks they should be asking those questions. And one of the things that the word keeps coming up for me is advocacy. We have to teach our moms, you have to advocate for yourself, but you can't advocate for yourself if you don't know what you should be advocating for, right? There's plenty of resources out there that dispel that. you can still take medication while you're, I think one of the people before said this, while you're breastfeeding. More importantly, there's other things outside of medication that you can do. And you said something about stopping breastfeeding. That really blows my mind, because I'm like, I had that experience when I was in the hospital. The first thing they offered me was Enfamil and Similac, when I'm like, well, I have breasts that make milk. Let me give my body a chance. But when you're frustrated, and then, for my breast didn't actually make milk for 3 days, and my baby was hungry, and if I didn't have a doula or a midwife there coaching me and helping me, encouraging me, so that would be my advice, is to, when you're working with your clients, to encourage them to utilize doulas and midwives, because not only are they, and lactation consultants, I mean, you know this for yourself, I'm sure, that sometimes it's just having somebody behind you saying, you can do this. We've been doing this for generations after generations. We're the original breastfeeders, right? And so just having that encouragement and resources and knowledge, and then most importantly, support. You have to have that support. So that would be what I would offer you.
I would also add to that, like everything that she said is great, but the best word is no. When they say that, you're just going to have to stop breastfeeding. Well, no, I can't do that because that's how my child eats. So what's the other solution? Because that was something that I had to do, and then it becomes, oh, well, I guess we could prescribe this instead of this because that has a different effect. But if you don't say no, they don't go to the next step. So sometimes you just have to say no for them to go to the next step in the script that they've been provided.
And also, I can't really see her, but I'm a lactation education counselor as well. Hi. I do want to uplift two things about that. So one, I think we have to start advocating for having healthcare professionals, pediatricians that are also advocates in the other sector. So she's probably gonna kill me. I'm gonna uplift Dr. Yolanda Hancock over there, who is a pediatrician. She's also a childbirth doula, and she's also a breastfeeding advocate. So that would be who I would go to for my pediatrician. But I also know that there's privilege in telling someone just switch doctors, because not everyone has access to that. So this is where it's so important for us to uplift our stories and our voices. Everybody up here has a story. Everybody up here has something to share. And if we, as the village and the network, share with one another what our stories are, you will find that there are women and individuals who have had babies, who have struggled with mental health, who have taken medication and know it's okay. And if you guys can talk to each other and really support and uplift and rise up for one another, we wouldn't need to second guess what we know, and we wouldn't always feel so comfortable just taking the advice of a doctor who may not have the knowledge. I'm not saying that they're bad, they may not have the knowledge. And a lot of times, because especially with pediatricians, they don't have knowledge about breastfeeding or what medication can work with breastfeeding, they're going to say, I can't recommend, because they don't have the knowledge to actually tell you, yes, it's okay. So that's why we need to uplift our own stories and our own voices, especially with each other, so that we feel comfortable talking to one another and saying, hey, I'm struggling with this. Do you have any idea how this is going to affect my baby? And if you can talk to each other and understand what everyone else's experiences are around this issue, you can be more comfortable advocating for yourself, saying, no, I'm going to keep breastfeeding, but I also do need that mental health support. So what can you do for me?
If I could just...
Thank you.
Very
quickly, because we're over time.
No,
I know you're going to get me in trouble.
Yeah, don't worry. All right. So I promise, 15 seconds. So I do think there is space, though, to have a conversation from the OBGYN side, because, we work with thousands of OBGYNs, and I think every OBGYN that I've ever met wants to have that conversation with that patient, but the payment structures and how the delivery of healthcare is reimbursed makes it almost impossible for an OBGYN to have that meaningful relationship with a patient. Most OBGYNs are seeing 30 patients a day, right? Think about that, 30 patients in 8 hours. You can't meaningfully create a conversation through that kind of mechanism, that factory mechanism. And so I think this is also where value-based payment models are so important, because if we can't change how our providers are paid to incentivize them to create these conversations and actually focus on a patient's needs, I don't think we'll ever get off go. And so that's just one thing I wanted to add as well.
Well, I just want to say thank you, and thank you to everyone on the panel. The information, every time I participate in something like this, I learn so much more, and it's because of this community and this village, and I'm so blessed to be a part of it. And thank you to everyone involved in putting on today's summit, and I hope that our conversation is helpful to you and to your loved ones. Thank you.
Thank you.